Welcome to the Athletes in Motion podcast, from race to recovery, with your hosts, Tom Riegel and Kenny Bailey.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Kenny. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm kind of excited about this episode because you and I have been talking about it, and I think half of the triathlon world always talks about it, or people getting into triathlon, that it's an expensive endeavor and that it's hard to do because you have to pay for so much because there's so many things to do. I don't think we were here to talk about whether or not is expensive or not expensive. You have to spend some bit of money to do triathlon.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think what we want to talk about instead of just sort of railing on how expensive, tickets are and all that sort of stuff, is if you are going to spend money, what would be the appropriate thing to spend on? In other words, if you are in a budget and you're trying to figure out, okay, I want to get into triathlon and I do need to spend a little bit, what would be the biggest bang for the buck?
Yeah. Yeah. And what are the things that you don't need to spend any money on at all?
Yeah, that you may not have to.
Not anything.
Yeah. So, and then I went one step further because I'm anal retentive and I'm weird this way, and I like lists and I like to put things in threes. Is okay. So let's do it this way. If you're a beginner triathlete, if it's something you like, I think I want to do triathlon. I'm pretty excited about it. I want to get into it. What would be and you're going to spend a couple $100, like what would you do on that one?
Yeah.
That would be our first category.
Okay.
Our second category is, okay, I've done a few triathlons. Now I'm ready to get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're going to spend a little bit more money. Again, we're not talking about you're going to spend zero. We know zero is not the number, but if you're going to do the bang for the buck, what would that be?
Yeah.
And then the last category is, that's it. I want to go nuts.
I need those extra 6
Yeah, I need those-
watts.
yeah, exactly.
What's my
Yes.
Kona qualifier?
Yes, what's
going
my
to be?
Kona qualifier?
How am I going to
Yeah.
get there?
Okay, so before we
that's
get
good.
into that,
Yep.
let's make sure you guys like and subscribe.
Yep.
We always love it when you guys do that. It allows us to be able to provide these for you guys. We're pretty excited about having you guys watch this, so make sure you can subscribe so you can continue to watch it.
Yes,
So,
and lots of feedback. Keep the comments and questions coming. If there's things you want us to talk about, hey, send us a little note. You can get us. You can get me tritomr@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Facebook. You can hit our YouTube channel for Athletes in Motion podcast. So yeah. Keep hitting us up.
and Tom's going to set up a Threads account.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. No problem.
That's the new thing. It's
That's
like,
the
well,
new
one
thing.
more social media account to set up. Yay.
We'll have to talk to our social media director about that.
Yeah, exactly. So,
okay.
So let's get into the meat of this thing. So you have somebody that's coming up to you. They're like, Tom, do you do triathlons? And you go, once in a while. If you're going, and by the way, I just want to also preface, you and I haven't talked about this at all.
No.
So this is,
in fact, I haven't even thought about it.
Exactly. So
Like,
this
we
is-
brought up this idea. We bantered about it a couple of weeks ago, and then we said, hey, we should just record something, and then I've been too busy to actually think about it. So
this is what I like about it. So this isn't, we didn't predetermine this. This isn't
Yeah.
something that he and I agreed with. He's probably going to be wrong on half of it. So, or
I
could be
usually
me.
am.
I may be projecting. All right. So,
Yeah.
New athlete, you want to start getting into triathlon. If you're going to spend a dime, where would you spend that time?
Well, I think you need let's break down what you actually need to do a triathlon, right? The bare minimum is you need a bike, some running shoes, and swim goggles.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a bathing suit, right? If you wanted to do bare bones, you're doing a sprint or an Olympic distance as your first one, basically you need something to swim in. They're going to give you a cap, a race cap. You need some goggles. Maybe you need earplugs. Maybe you need, nose something. That's, that's $1.
Yeah.
So you need a bike to ride on. What type of bike do you need? You just need a road bike.
Yeah.
You can even do it on a beach cruiser. Any of that can be done. You don't need the clipless pedals. You don't need any of that fancy stuff. You can do it with flat pedals and your sneakers, and that makes you have a really fast T2 transition because you just hop off the bike and run.
Yeah.
And then you just need that's your bare minimum.
Yep.
So getting into the sport shouldn't be I need to buy an expensive bike. I need a tri bike. I need an aero helmet. I need none of that stuff matters. You need a bike, and it doesn't even need to be yours. You can borrow it.
Sure.
Like, don't steal them. Rent one or borrow one from a friend. I've seen people do them on mountain bikes, any of that type of stuff. So that's bare bones to get in.
Yeah. So for example, if somebody came to me and said, okay, bare bones to get in is that, I would say, okay, if you're going to spend, like, so let's use that.
So
right?
you have that.
You have that,
Let's
right?
start it
It's
there,
like,
yeah.
I would personally go, okay, I would invest in a pair of running shoes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And the reason why
Yeah.
is because running shoes will, a person that's usually doing triathlon is probably also going to either walk or run.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go to a store like Fleet Feet or another store a local running store that can put you into a good pair of shoes. And I said, if you're going to spend money,
Yep.
spend money on the shoes.
Yes.
Because you can train in those shoes. When you're done with triathlon, you can still run. If you're saying, hey, this isn't my sport, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I just want to do walk. You're
Yes.
going to get in a good pair of shoes, because if those are ill-fitting, again, it's contact point, right?
Yeah.
So if those are ill-fitting, you're not going to have a good training program.
Mm-hmm.
Your knees are going to hurt. Your hot spots, blisters, all that sort of stuff, and you're not going to enjoy the training as much as you would.
Totally. You'll get you might even get injured. So and when we're talking about that, so don't get the bargain basement shoe. Don't just buy the $40 pair of sneakers that's out there, the tennies or whatever that's on sale because it's it's a blowout deal or whatever. Actually have your feet looked at.
Yeah.
We know the Fleet Feet folks. We know that they actually do that. There's other running stores that do that as well. They will actually look at your foot base, and then they'll guide you towards a more of a performance shoe.
Sure.
You're looking at around 120 to 160 bucks ish, somewhere in that, and then look for sales, right?
Yeah, and I think
you look for
most
sales.
most running stores, if you're going in and saying, look, I want a quality pair of shoes, you can put a cap on sort of like, and I don't want to spend any more than this.
Yes. Yes.
If you walk in and say, I don't want to spend any more than $40, that's going to be a little bit of a problem. But if you're like, look, I don't want to spend any more than $100, they should be able to find you a quality pair of running shoes for $100.
The key is to find the one that fits your
Exactly.
foot best and your running style best, and that's what they'll test you on, right?
Yep.
They'll put you in some shoes you can run a little bit. You kind of get a feel for what it is, what they do, not just take any shoe. Like, don't start in a zero drop if you've never used a zero drop shoe before.
Correct.
Like these little bits and pieces that the running stores will guide you through that.
Yes.
But that's the point of just get a proper shoe. And then once you know the shoe that you like, you can find the deals like last year's models, blowouts.
Yes.
They're, 50% off. They're, 80% off, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you can find those. Then you can actually save some
Yeah.
money on that. And the other thing would be they're going to wear out. Right. So replace the insoles after 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
If you're running a lot on them, take the time to spend the money on the shoes, because if you're running on a pair of shoes a year later and you start to have shin splints and some
Exactly.
other feet issues, that's because the shoes are gone,
Yeah.
right? They're toast. They just wear out. That's what happens. So spend the money on the shoes. I agree totally on getting a good quality pair of shoes.
Yeah, and I think so. If you say, okay, I got another $100 left, let's say $200 is going to be your limit, right? So you bought a $100 pair of shoes.
Okay.
You got another $100 to spend. That's the most you're going to spend on this whole thing. I mean, outside the entry fees and all that. Speaking of entry fees, find a local race. You don't need to do Ironman branded stuff.
Yeah,
That's
no.
several $100s. Find
Do the local
race.
stuff.
Personally, I think contact point. So if I was going to go past that, the other thing I would probably consider then at that point would be a pair of cycling shorts with a decent chamois.
Yeah. Cycling shorts or a tri-kit? That's the question.
Yeah.
Because you can race in the in the cycling shorts, but you're going to have to change from the swim to the bike.
Well, tri shorts. Maybe let me
Yeah.
back up. Like there's so for triathlon you can have a one piece sort of all thing, or you can have just a pair of tri shorts below. Because for example, when I
so
race,
a 2-piece or 1-piece suit.
Yes.
So we're saying 2-piece suit. I think for a beginner, a 2-piece suit is the way to go.
yes.
For sure.
And I mean, because I personally race in just a pair of tri shorts, and then I wear a cycling jersey because of the distance I'm doing, and I need to be able to hold food
and stuff.
And then I
Yeah,
switch
yeah, yeah.
over to like a tank top or a shirt when I run
Yep.
because I'm doing longer distance. But
Yes.
for sprint, a 2-piece was.
And I would
is great.
agree. I would agree with that. It's a good pair of tri shorts, and I'll call it a tri kit.
Yeah.
But just the shorts, because you can get the top as well, which is, I mean, if you can find the package, it's great. I would stay away from the 1-piece suits because they're bathroom issues. Right? Let's just just go there. Like if you're in a bit of bother and you have to run to a porta potty, you basically have to take the whole damn thing off.
Yeah, it's not fun.
And if you're hot and sweaty, getting it back on is not pleasant.
Yeah, it's not fun.
So the least amount of time you can spend in that hot plastic box would be better. So,
Yeah, and so the things that goggles are $20 to $30. Like you can get a decent pair of goggles for $15 to $30. So I think you should be okay on that. But I think for the beginner, so I think to me again, it's around the contact points. Your butt's going to be on a seat for 50% of the races on a bike.
Yep.
Right. And if you get a decent pair of tri shorts or, a 2-piece tri shorts to be comfortable, nice pair of shoes. And again, those could be used afterwards. So if you continue to want to be able to just ride your bike or run and
you can swim in them. You can use them to swim in on a regular basis. So they can be a pair of jammers or, swim trunks for you. They dry out really well. They're easy to run in. So you can just run in them. I know people who run races, regular just running races in their tri shorts.
Yeah. Because they're compression. And that compression can help. It helps with your legs when you're racing. So, all right. So we found the new beginner. They're great. You've done a few of these before. You're ready to step up. You're right. Okay, triathlon is my thing. I'm going to put the sticker on my car. Yeah. I'm going to be that obnoxious person at the party that's like, oh, you didn't know I'm a triathlete. You're going to be those. You're going to be that person. You're going to be that. Yeah. How do you know you're talking to a triathlete? They tell you. Right? So now you're going to step up and kind of make an investment. So we said a couple $100. This is going to be a couple thousand now. So you're ready to.
Yeah, you're spending more money.
You're spending more money.
At this point, what do you do? You're doing. Is there a particular distance at this level, or you're
probably
still doing
Olympics?
Doing
maybe
sprint,
a half.
Still doing sprint and Olympics, but just doing more than one or two.
Or maybe want to do a half. Or
maybe doing a half.
Yeah. So you're starting to spend some time.
You can still get away with a road bike. A quality road bike would be fine for all of that.
Would you look at clamp-ons for that? Are you a clamp-on fan?
The
clamp-ons, the clip.
No, the aero bars. Yeah. That's a loaded question.
I know. That's why I asked it.
So
wow, you had
to I'm gonna need some coffee for this.
I clipped them. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Sorry about that. Ice. Yeah. So if you get a proper bike fit, and you should have a proper bike fit anyway for a road bike.
Yeah.
But if you're going to put aero bars, clip-on bars on your road bike, then you should absolutely go in and get a professional bike fit.
Yeah.
Because we take and put you either in a really optimum road position or a really optimum aero position. And what we have to do is kind of find that balance between the two. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to just wing that. You just can't be in a good road position and slap some clip-on bars and then wonder why your back is killing you when you can't get into aero. And if you're putting the aero bars on and you're not actually using them very much, you're just adding weight and wind resistance to the bike. So you're just you're negating anything that you think you're getting.
I see.
And it doesn't look that cool.
Okay.
So
yeah,
that's where I'm going. So I'm I'm always talking to people about it and saying you should maybe really consider not getting them.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had clients come in and they've had them on there and I got them in a really good position and we yanked those bars off and said, you're better in the drops.
Actually,
you're
you can
just as efficient or more efficient in the drops. And then we don't need this extra weight and crap on the
and if you have any questions about that, watch the Tour de France and tell me anybody that's slow in a Tour de France is sitting in drops. Right. I mean, a road bike can be, it's not optimal for triathlon position because you're running off of a bike, but these guys are zooming pretty good on a road bike.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question a different way. At what point would you have somebody buy a tri bike?
I think buying a tri bike would be if you're doing longer distances and you're going to do more than one.
Okay.
If you're going to do a one and done, either half Ironman or Ironman distance race, really, is it worth spending that kind of money? I mean, maybe you find a used bike on the marketplace, or you find something there that's not that expensive and you can spend the money and do that. But it's really, you really got to spend a lot of time in it.
Okay.
You need to be set up properly in it, and then you need to spend a lot of time on it. And it's not a bike to take out on group rides. Yeah. It's dangerous to be on, and a lot of the Grand Fondos and things won't let you in even with aero bars on your road bike. They won't let you in, or won't let you do. Certainly not on a tri bike because it's dangerous. Right? You're in your drops. You're so far away from your brakes. Yeah. And if something is to happen, there's no way you have the reflexes to get back to your brakes to stop in time. Yeah. Even if you were on your brakes, you couldn't stop in time. So there's no way you're going to be able to sit up and grab your brakes. Yeah. It's just not happening. So it's just a dangerous situation. So, if you're going to, I would say if you're going to do 3 or 4 longer distance races, that to me was a number that said, I'm going to do at least 3 of these. Then I'm going to make the investment in a proper tri bike that I'm going to use for races.
And I agree. I think, if you're doing a couple halves and an Olympic and that's your race, season, then I think stepping up to a tri bike. And again, to Tom's point, it doesn't have to be, a brand new, Canyon, Speed Max would be awesome, but, it doesn't have to be, it can be a used bike. There's plenty of people that have high quality used bikes. All you just make sure that the frame it's from a reputable space. The frame's not cracked.
Yeah.
To me, frames, I know I'm going to say some heresy here and we'll probably get some feedback. I hope so. Frames are now at a point where, carbon is carbon is carbon at some point. It's the componentry, in my opinion, that tends to be the thing that separates it, right? Because I've ridden like a 105 Shimano gearing and I have Dura Ace, and you can tell the difference between those two. It's just a much sweeter shifting. I also have electronic shifting now, and oh my God, I love that.
And you got disc brakes.
Rim
that
whole
thing. You've got that
whole thing. So we won't get into that. But
that's a whole other ballgame.
A tri bike, maybe when you step up to that. The other thing probably at this point would be a good quality wetsuit.
Yes. Yeah.
Now,
because we didn't talk about a wetsuit for the beginner.
Because you can rent a wetsuit, or some of these beginner ones, they're pool.
I'm thinking because right now we're in Middle Tennessee and it's too damn hot to be in a wetsuit really for more than 5 minutes. Yeah. So our water temperatures are in the 80s, the low 80s at this point. So it's not really wetsuit weather. So I wasn't thinking about that for that. You can get some $100 wetsuits and things, but I think if you're going to step up and you're going to do a little bit longer, I think stepping up a little bit and getting a higher quality wetsuit for sure would be good money.
Yeah, and
good money spent.
Yeah, and the differences between the two generally are the type of neoprene that you're getting and the thinness or thickness level of that neoprene. Yes. So the high-end wetsuits, probably half of it's marketing, but the whole point of the high-end wetsuits is they have really thin, supple ways to allow your arm movement to go. So when you look at a wetsuit, if you get a stiff wetsuit, it's going to be difficult to swim in. When you get a higher-end wetsuit, they tend to put like a 4 to 5 millimeter around the hips to kind of keep you more buoyant, because most people that do triathlons aren't really good swimmers. Yeah. So they try to keep people that way. So you've got a range from like $200 to $1,200 on wetsuits.
Easily, yeah.
So
and you're looking at like the $100, $200 suits are going to be the thicker neoprene all over. Yeah. Right, top to bottom. So thicker like in the shoulders. Yeah. The same thickness in the shoulder as the chest, as the hips, whatever. They're very buoyant. Yeah. Everything's great. But what you lack is water feel, especially in your arms and mobility, movement with your arms and your shoulders. So as you get to the more expensive or the higher end suits, I don't say more expensive. They're just a higher end because then they take the technology and they make more panels. Yeah. So now they have thinner panels. Now they've got 4 mil, 3 mil, 2 mil panels that are all welded together. That takes a little bit of time and effort to make that do. And then the inner lining makes a difference. So the higher the quality of the suit, more expensive, the better the lining is, so it chafes less, it does little things like that. So then, but they also wear out faster, right? Yeah. Thinner neoprene. 2 mil, you can put your fingernails through on the first try.
Yeah, you got to be really, it's funny, when you watch some people during triathlon in the morning when they get ready, they'll put baggies on their feet and baggies on their hands because your nails will literally rip these neoprene if you're not careful, right? And
you have to be.
You will cry openly.
There's a whole way to put the suit on properly, and basically it's always pull from the inside. Pull from the inside. Never grab the neoprene on the outside and yank up on it because that's terrible. You come off with handfuls of it. And you just go, great.
So at this point, also, are you looking at like an aero helmet? Would you say just a standard helmet would be?
I think the standard helmets have all become pretty aero these days. I don't think you need to be like back in the day. I'll say in the good old days where you had the long tail, aerodynamic helmets that you specially got just for those races. Now most of the road helmets are very aerodynamic. I think finding one that's quality that fits your head. Yep. Maybe it has MIPS, which is the protection system. Yeah. I would spend the money right from the get-go on a really good helmet. It's your brain.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
It's your brain. You don't get a second chance on that. Yeah. And speaking from experience, where I landed pretty hard on my head and smashed my relatively moderately priced helmet,
Yeah.
I spend a lot of money on the helmets these days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just worth it all the way around.
Yeah, when you see a cracked helmet, because I crashed as well, and you see a cracked helmet, you're like, whew, okay, yeah, let's not do that.
It's no joke. It's no joke to how fast you don't even have to go fast on the bike to crack your head and hit it the wrong way.
Right, exactly.
And yeah, do some serious damage.
So what we haven't talked about is electronics.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah,
when
yeah,
we're
yeah.
at this space, right, you're talking bike computers,
Yeah.
Garmin watches, those kind of thing. At what point would you recommend people start introducing themselves? I mean, again, you can go from $100 to several $1,000s with, watt meters, your cranks are producing watts on, you all sorts of stuff you can do. So, I mean, there's quite the range.
I think you
If
start
you're kind of,
yeah.
again, a couple of halves and a thing. I mean,
if you're getting into it, you want a watch that will capture multi-sport or
Yeah.
at least swim, bike, and run individually, right? Most of the watches are I think you graduate up from what is a fitness tracker
yes,
to more of a sports watch. And Garmin, Coros,
Yep.
Apple, any of those will do at that point. I think most of even the low model ones will cover most of the sport. They'll even do kayaking
Sure.
and stand-up paddleboarding and all that other stuff. So the idea is to be able to track your training.
yeah,
How detailed you need to get. I think still at this point, you don't need a power meter on your bike. You don't need a lot of that stuff unless you're
a data whore like I
yeah,
am.
if you're a data geek and you really absolutely
Really
need
love
to
data,
know
yeah.
that I gained 2 watts over the last 6 weeks of training, then spend. But that's a couple
Yeah.
grand to get,
Yeah.
power meter on your bike. So now we're blowing the budget.
Yeah, and the other reason why you get a watch like this is because when you show up to dinners in nice clothes and you still wear a Garmin, it lets everybody know you're a triathlete.
Yeah.
So, hello. So when you show up to a business meeting and your
And
Garmin
everyone's-
watch, it's like, why are you wearing a Garmin? Well, thank you for asking.
Thanks for asking. Did I
I'm
tell you about my
actually a
training this week?
triathlete. I've got some, I got to run after dinner, that
Nice.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a wide variety of things. I think
Yeah.
what we're trying to say, I think, for this mid pack is sort of take a look at sort of what, if you're going to start doing this 3 to 4 times a year,
Yeah.
maybe go ahead and getting the tri bike, maybe stepping up to a good wetsuit. I think
If you're
what
in
we're
a
talking-
colder climate, I would
Yeah.
get the wetsuit for sure. I think getting a watch that covers all your training, that's somewhat accurate.
Yep.
I mean, they're accurate plus or minus. Having the watch, a good wetsuit at this level.
Yep.
I think that's where we're starting to
Yeah.
bump up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And what's nice is, your bike's going to last you for quite a while. So what I generally do when I start to purchase things is, you get kind of the big basics done first. But if you're going to do it for multiple years, it's like, okay, this year I'm going to get a good bike computer. That's going to be the thing I get,
Yeah.
right? You don't need to buy it all at once. Next year, maybe I'll step up to, a quality, higher end, maybe, Garmin watch or Apple Watch or whatever, which one you want, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to get it all at once. So, for example, I had a helmet that was getting older. I said, okay, I think this year I'm going to step up. And that was my purchase for the year.
Yeah.
Because, everything else, like I've had a wetsuit that's been there for 4 years now. So, and it's still good.
Yeah.
So I don't need that. So, you don't have to accumulate these things in a month. You can do it over time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the fun one. This is a fun one because that's where I'm at.
So you're there.
Yeah, I think I want to qualify for
You're
Kona.
crushing all of these goals and dreams.
Yeah.
You're doing multiple triathlons a year or a month for some.
Yeah,
for some folks.
a couple of Ironmans you got on the deck, right? So
Yeah.
you're trying to qualify for Kona. So now you're going to spend money.
Yeah. Get
Let's-
a coach. Get a coach.
I was thinking, the first thing you say is get a coach.
Get a coach.
Yeah, get a coach.
Because at that point, I think if you're that serious, I think getting a coach and finding the right coach for you. I mean, that's interview a couple of coaches. Don't just sign up with one just because they're a coach. Just talk with them, sit down, have a couple of meetings, talk with a bunch of different coaches, figure out what you're going to get, what you're going to pay. All of that stuff comes into play. But I think, if you're trying to bust out those last 6 watts and push things into the qualifying zone, got to get a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
coach.
funny because I was like, what about wheels? But coach, and I'm glad, and this is why we haven't talked about this. I think that's a fantastic idea, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to spend money, right? Because you can try to buy watts, but if your training program isn't going, what does it matter, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like if you're...
I've seen people in our second category that are just kind of getting into it, and they spend all the money on the bike.
Yeah.
They get all the bling, they get the great suit, the whole thing, and they're out there just struggling, and everyone is blown by them on these aged bikes and whatever, and you just go, even at that point, you're in your second tier, right? You're kind of getting in there, might be thinking about getting some coaching, even if it's just short-term coaching to work on your swim or to work on certain things to kind of, you have to build the engine.
Sure.
You have to build the engine first, and then the coach can help you realize those dreams and a little more power and find some more things out of it. So I think that's
actually, it's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
I think, coaching aside too, when it comes to equipment, it's sort of like, I think there's a big debate on, okay, now like aero wheels are we're talking 1600 to $3,000.
Yeah, $3,000 at least.
$3,500.
Yeah.
Aero helmet is, they say if you get an aero helmet, it's almost as good as just getting aero wheels.
Well, now they're just sticking water bottles down there.
Did you see that?
And they're gaining a couple of watts on that. I know Aero Sports is doing some testing. Some testing on that. So I mean, I think once you get to that level, then you need a quality bike. Then you're going to be spending lots of money.
Yeah.
Actually, then you can break the bank, right? There's a huge step where it's like, now you need a quality bike that fits you. That's a triathlon specific bike, because you're trying to wring out all the advantages of aerodynamics and power to push you forward and get you set for that. And I think that's huge. Now you need a good bike. Do you need to spend $20,000 on the bike? No. You can still find a used bike.
Yeah.
Preferably one that fits you. So don't just willy-nilly, buy things off the internet and go, I think it's the right size. I get too many conversations that way. Too many people come in going, I thought it was the right size.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you're lucky.
Yeah. And I think, for example, if you bought a good quality wetsuit, trying to step up to like the highest end wetsuit may not what you need.
Doesn't gain you that much. Doesn't gain you that much.
Yeah. I think that the thing for me, is because you spend 50% of your time on your bike.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, now watts make a difference, right? Now watts are your king, right? You are training by watts. And now you have to get sort of some way to measure those watts, because your whole training program is basically based off of heart rate monitor and watt monitor. And that's not cheap. You can get like a watt meter a power meter that can go on like one arm of your crank. That's, less than $1,000, but you're going to be spending, thousands are the money you're going to be spending now, right?
You're
Now I have to say, I had a road bike that I was that I had just the stock wheels that were on it. Ended up having something wrong right before a big century ride that we were going to do. Ended up borrowing a buddy's Mavic wheels, and oh my God, the difference between the two was incredible. Just because that spinning resistance, right? Because you're rotating that weight. I mean, just a lighter weight. It doesn't have to be. You can get the Envies or the Zips that are $3,000, but a lighter weight wheel will make a difference. Big time.
Yeah.
Just there's ranges that you can do. Head does a great job on has
I'm
a
a
great
huge
range.
fan of head wheels.
So those kind of things.
Yeah. You don't need a super deep dish. You need maybe a 40 millimeter deep. And that's probably it. And you will get an advantage even in climbing. Yeah. There is an advantage to be had.
Yeah. So I think what we're trying to say is, there's, yes, triathlon is going to cost some bit of money, but it doesn't have to break the bank. It depends on where you're at too.
Yeah.
I mean, when folks say,
and your bank.
Yeah.
Depends on how much bank you have.
Yeah, it does. And,
but you absolutely don't need to spend the money on certain things. I mean, you can, and I like your when you talked about doing it year by year, and that's how I always did it. So I've been doing this for 20 years. So 1 year was wheels. Yeah. The next year was I upgraded the frame. So I started with a triathlon bike, and then wanted to upgrade the frame a few years later. Bumped up just the frame. Yeah. Took all the components and just moved them over to the new frame and built the bike up that way. Got a new crank arms 1 year, right? Went on, basically had a yearly budget of what I was going to spend.
Yep.
To upgrade little bits and pieces. Wheels is always you can keep the same bike, the same road bike you have, and upgrade to a good pair of wheels would get you a really big bump in performance before you have to spend a lot more money on the whole bike.
Exactly.
With the wheels.
Yeah, and the thing is to try to future-proof it, right?
Yeah.
So, because a lot of these things, we're in this transition in the world from kind of rim brakes to disc brakes and those kind of things. So, giant debate. But I think you can do that. I think you can get into the sport. You can, to your point, you can start stacking it. Start a little bit, and if that's a bug that you like, this is something I want to do. You can then kind of incrementally grow. You don't have to do this whole thing where you can start out. You don't have to drop 5 Gs just to go. in a triathlon.
If it's your first sprint distance triathlon and you run out and buy an expensive tri bike just to do that, you're crazy.
Yeah,
you're crazy because your bike handling skills aren't up to the up to snuff really to be on that bike safely.
Yeah,
and you're not going to gain anything out of it because most of you are going to be sitting upright on it anyway.
Yeah, and the free stuff is like or minimum amount of dollars is join a tri club, right? Join,
totally. Yeah,
join groups that are like-minded people that can help you sort of get better skill sets. To your point, once you think you're there, hire a coach so you can start working. I mean, that's how you and I met. Is my swim, even though I finished an Ironman, my swim was degrading every year.
Yeah.
And it was like, let's, even pros still have coaches. They have multiples, right? They have nutritionists and all that sort of stuff because they know they need to continually get better. And that's probably the one thing to do. So
go to a training camp. Some of our coaches have training camps that you can find. There's a bunch of them out there that specialize in different parts of it as well. So you can do that. You can do one-on-one coaching. You don't have to do like a monthly for a year type of thing. You can get individual coaching type stuff. Always recommend that. Yeah. So there's little business pieces you can do.
Yeah. So if you guys have any other, if you think we're crazy, we'd love to hear about it.
What did we miss?
Yes. What did we miss?
Yeah. What did we miss? Let us know. And then maybe we'll respond to you. If our
if you guys scream loud enough, we'll all right,
fine, right? We'll get on and talk about it a little bit more. But
absolutely.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for your support and your questions and things. Keep listening. Subscribe. Once again, the subscribe button will be here someplace on our YouTube channel. Make sure you don't miss anything, and we've got a lot of fun content coming up. So let us know what you want to hear, and we'll catch you on the next one.